on that. Let's you and I get together with some bongos and a guitar, and let's create some show starting music. But meanwhile, we'll go ahead and get started. Hey, everybody, I'm Teddy Burriss. You're on Lunch Conversations with Randy and Teddy, and I'm Teddy, and the other guy is Randy, and we'll tell you about our special guest in a few minutes. Thanks a lot for joining us. We're at show 86, 87, Randy?
You think we're getting up there. I'm looking for you right now, actually, on LinkedIn. And
yeah, we're live on LinkedIn. We're live on LinkedIn. Facebook. If you're in the space shuttle, we're live in the space shuttle. And today's going to be a really cool conversation. I'll get Randy to introduce our special guest in a minute. For those who don't know me, I am Teddy Burriss. It says right there on the screen, and I work for a company called Burriss Consulting. We're LinkedIn strategists, trainers, coaches, all about LinkedIn and Sales Navigator. Love doing that work, and love showing up here every Wednesday with my buddy Randy to make a little noise, laugh a little bit. You missed behind the scenes if you weren't there this morning. But anyway, Randy, would you introduce yourself to our friends?
Yeah, sure. Happy to. And happy to join back now. I was away for a week. So we had Cindy Martin on as our guest co-host. So I understand she did very well. So I hope I don't get cut from the team, Teddy. So I know
don't worry about that this week.
Pressure's on. Randy Wooden with Goodwill Industries of Northwest North Carolina. I'm the director for our professional center. We help folks that are professionals. However you want to define that. It's a big world out there. Somebody with a degree, maybe somebody in a leadership role, that kind of a thing. And our services are free. I've got clients across the country, and we're happy to help. There's no cost. We do work by appointment. So find me on LinkedIn. That's how I found Sara Rosinsky, and she is our guest this week. It's going to be a cool topic. Sara, by the way, I'll just brief introduction, then I'm going to throw it to you, Sara, for a little bit more background. She's a copywriter. And Teddy, I think, I am not an avid reader of books, like actual books. I like to, newspaper and surf the web and that kind of thing. But I'm not a big, is it a bibliophile? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I ain't that, right? But I got her book and it is awesome. I love this. And I said, Sara, you got to be on here because we need to understand as professionals how to engage with the written word, speaking and how we dress and our body language. But the written word is key. And so Sara is copywriter. She owns a company called Shiny Red Copy and has a new book out. And if you're on the hunt for a Christmas gift for someone, we got you covered. In fact, we're going to give away a couple of books as the show goes on. So be sure to keep an eye on what's going on. So Sara, let me turn it to you. Tell us a little bit more about you and how you got into what you do.
Okay. Hi, I'm Sara Rosinsky, and thank you so much for having me on. I actually started my career in an unconventional way, but maybe people will get inspired by it. I graduated from college, got myself an apartment, and needed to find a job and was not succeeding. Really wasn't. There was a recession, and so I started advertising, and I hung up posters that I put all over. I put posters all over Boston's Back Bay that said, I remember these words. It said, "Recent Wellesley graduate and aspiring stand-up comedian seeks employment." And I said, I'm on the public transportation. I'm on the T. I have a car. I basically said I would do anything for money, and I did the little tear off numbers, and I got many different kinds of work. But around the time that I thought I might be interested in an advertising career, I happened to get a call from an ad agency, and they wanted me to hand deliver some invitations for one of their clients, possibly. But basically, the president of the company kept that little number. And at a certain point, they needed someone to answer the phones, called me up, and I took a shine to the writing aspect of advertising. And I had a generous boss who taught me the craft. And I've been doing that for over 30 years now, writing ads, marketing,
Wow, very
all
cool.
of that. So
very cool. Very cool. Hey, folks, if you're watching us, let us know where you're watching from. Put it in the chat. what you're having for lunch, because it's lunch is on Teddy today, so we're just coming up with ideas for that. Yeah. But also Teddy is going to monitor that chat box. So if you have more importantly, if you have questions for Sara, we may even play Stump the Rosinsky today. I don't know.
Oh no.
Yeah, we may. We're going to invite maybe, because look, people have questions, and we don't know what we don't know, and so people will just continue to do what they do until somebody says, "Hey, that's not right." And whether it's there, a lot, whatever, all of that kind of stuff. So we're going to cover, though, if you have comments or questions you'd like to throw in there, Teddy will keep an eye on that. Sara, I always ask the why question because I can, and I like it. What's the why? What's the real passion, the real driver behind why you do what you do? And being kind of a lone wolf all these years, that takes a lot of passion and drive to get up every day and do what you do.
I have to say, I have not been a lone wolf for all of that time. I was at an ad agency, and then I was in-house, and I've been a lone wolf full-time since 2016. But my why has remained the same. I am, and here's a vocab word for the day, I am a logophile, which means I love words. To me, it's like playing with toys all day long. I get to rearrange words like Lincoln Logs or Legos and make what works best and sounds pretty, and I find it delightful. So that's my why.
Yeah, and let me just throw out this just from the get-go. She's not going to be a grammar Nazi. She's not going to slap your wrist with a ruler. I've talked to Sara before. We've engaged on frequently through LinkedIn, and she's very lighthearted and an encourager. And one of the things I really liked about your book, and I like about how you cover the topic of punctuation, grammar, spelling, is that not only do you say here's the proper way, but you also offer easy to identify or easy to remember hints or tips. And because we don't, unless we use something frequently, we probably forget it. But it's easier to remember what I'll call a hook. That's something like in music where you remember that line and you just, okay, I remember that song. I remember the hook, the line. And so we want to cover some of that, but you also have a new book out. So let's touch on that briefly, and then we'll dive into some of these talking points that you have. So tell us about the book.
Okay, I happen to have it right here.
I'm shocked. I'm shocked.
It's called Unflubbify Your Writing, which I guess I'll just say that word is not a real word. So to the point of being proper or not, and to the point of being playful with words, I like to make words up sometimes. You can do that. That's why English is so fun. But the subtitle is Bite-Sized Lessons to Improve Your Spelling, Punctuation, and Grammar. And yeah, and I just would say too, actually here, you were talking about a hook. What I have in here are mnemonic devices, which is a ridiculously spelled word. It's M-N, mnemonic. But there are some things in here, like here's a trick about how to remember how to spell capital with an O versus capital with an A. And I remember Capitol. I think of a round Capitol dome. And so anyway, I have some tricks in here that can kind of burn words into your mind.
It's going to be really, really useful. It's, my mom was an English teacher, Teddy. I know I've shared that with you. And so I was brought up with how to speak properly and how to write properly. And it served me well throughout my career. It doesn't necessarily mean I'm the smartest guy going. And Teddy can attest to that. But how we speak and how we write, especially how we write, because when we speak, there's the tone of voice. There are all kinds of, it's part of the body language expressions, but when it's simply the written word, you can't have that tone unless it's all capitals or something. You don't have that ability to kind of smooth things over by your facial expression, your tone of voice. So the written word can be very, very challenging for people. Not only the spelling component, but the sentence structure, the grammar, and so forth. So there's a lot to cover. So let's dive in. I guess one of the first things that you mentioned was less is more. Less can be more. So what does that mean?
Well, I do live by that. In advertising in particular, you want to use the sparest language you can. That doesn't mean everything needs to sound clipped and pared down, but I always challenge myself. Any word I include in my writing has to earn a position there. So if I find myself writing something that's a little redundant, a very bright light, I will ask myself, do I need to say very? Is there some, is that really adding something? So I'm constantly asking myself. And that's a practice I would encourage everyone to get in the habit of. Just always ask yourself, does this add? And if it does not add, take it away.
If it does, yeah. And the words, I find myself guilty of, I think at times, using words such as which and that, and I need to pay attention to that to tighten the wording a little bit, the of, from, to, and kind of be, those are, when I see those on clients' resumes, it draws my eye. And so, we try to look for those. I don't know if there are any certain tips that you can offer for, again, a lot of our audience, job hunters, and resumes are a big deal, right? So are there certain tips if you're putting a resume together from don't be too verbose, I guess. How do you narrow things down? Because you only have limited real estate here.
So here's a huge piece of advice to everyone who's communicating with anyone. Think about your reader. Think about the person you're talking to. And it's one person. Don't think about all the companies. Think about a single person sitting down and looking at what you've written for them. You want to, above all, make their lives easy. Don't make it difficult to understand what you're writing. Don't fill it up with so many buzzwords and long sentences that they start scratching their heads. And not only will they lose interest, but they won't understand what you're trying to say. So I encourage everyone to err on the side of simplicity, directness, shorter sentences. Be a human being. I think when people are trying to sound professional, they sometimes get so fancy sounding and business speaky that they become impenetrably, confusing. So ask yourself what you're really trying to say, and don't work so hard to make it fancy.
Teddy, you got
so I'm going to try to do this correctly, Sarah.
Oh boy, here we go.
Now I'm going to share with you Don's question. Don said, Don's one of our long-term audience members. Don says, for most of his career, he always believed he was a talented and effective speaker until he discovered that he's actually a more talented writer. I think he's putting this question to you, and the question is this: is there a chance you are actually a terrific speaker?
I am a better writer than speaker because, of course, given the chance to use a thesaurus and proofread and think things over and recraft them, of course,
and the eraser,
that's going to end up. Of course. That's why I have not launched the YouTube series that I really want to. I'm comfortable speaking. I've done stand-up comedy, but writing gives you that wonderful chance to rework things. Don't you wish you had that in life? If you could proofread the things that you've said to people and fix it before they see it.
So we can't do a public speech and go, Siri, back up 10 seconds.
I turned my phone off already, so I'm covered in case you decide to do that, Teddy.
Don, I hope I did your question appropriately, buddy. Back to you, Randy.
Well, just back on the resume thing, the active versus passive voice. Can you define what those two things are? Active voice versus passive voice? Because I think that's critical when it comes to a resume.
I actually was writing about this just last night. First of all, let me say that using the passive voice is not wrong. It's just circuitous, which means it's not the most direct line. It's a little, it's just indirect. So let me give you an example. Everyone's familiar with, why did the chicken cross the road? If you were to make that passive, you would say, why was the road crossed by the chicken? It's not the way we typically say. The only reason you'd want to do that is if maybe you were a concrete manufacturer and you wanted to put the emphasis on that road. Typically you want to, if you cared about the road, but typically we care about the chicken, the one doing the action. So interestingly too, when people are being shady or dishonest, they will often use the passive voice because they want to detract from their own actions. So people will say, mistakes were made instead of I goofed up. Right? They're trying to move that focus.
Write that one down.
So really, as you think to yourself, what am I trying to communicate to this potential employer? I want them to know I started a department. I improved the morale of my coworkers. So say that, improved morale, founded whatever it is that you founded, say those things directly.
Yeah. And you just mentioned something that I won't call it a pet peeve of mine, but it's something that I'm in tune with. And that is what I'll call resume speak versus prose versus with resumes. We don't say I did or I was the subject and the was, the verb, generally those go away, right? Is that your thought? And this is not a show on resume writing per se, but I think we need to get out there. There are differences because we're accustomed to one way of writing every day. And now the resume language is a little different. So, yeah.
Right. And I would say on a resume that actually makes sense, because if you are, let's say, if you're creating a bullet list of all of your accomplishments, if you were to begin each of those bullets with the word I, you would end up sounding, it would be way too much emphasis on me. It would sound weird. I did this, and I did that. And, so that convention of getting rid of the subject or, making it implicit, that's fine. But making those statements active, that's another favor that you're doing to your reader, right? You're lining up all of those verbs: established, started, succeeded, whatever they are. You can just see them one after the other.
Implemented, developed, initiated, created. Yeah. So that's the resume side of this thing. And your role, what do you write for companies then? They hire you to write ad copy, or what kind of writing typically do you do? It's not right. In other words, you're not a resume writer. I guess that's one thing I wanted to get out there. So not a resume writer, but who are your customers? Who do you write for?
I have a variety of clients. Right now I'm working.
For whom do you write? I'm sorry.
For whom do I write?
For whom do you write?
At this week, I am helping a private school in Massachusetts to raise money with a case statement. I am helping a consultant in Boise, Idaho with a website. I do all sorts of different things, but my favorite stuff, I love some good space restrictions where there's an ad that can only be 4 by 6 inches. And I have to, what are the few words I could put in there that would make someone stop, pay attention, understand an idea, and take an action. I love doing ads. I love naming companies and products and coming up with taglines. It's my favorite stuff.
The
shorter the better.
Yeah. Teddy, you had something?
Don just shared a book that I got to put on my reading list besides Unflubbify. Don said that Deloitte has a book that all of their employees must read. And the title of the book is Why Do Business People Speak Like Idiots? Don, that is on my reading list as soon as I find it, buddy.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah, I remember the word when I was much younger and had hair, the word stilted, and people who try to sound so upscale or whatever, and it just sounds kind of, and I think one of the best examples of that just comes to mind is it belongs to Teddy and I.
Oh, can I talk about that? Can I talk about that?
Oh, you got her fired up, Randy.
It belongs to Sarah and I. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. No, you're not up here with that. You're actually down here and you just don't know it, but you're trying to, how to compensate for whatever. So take it away, Sarah, because I see I stepped on one there for you and got you going.
So first of all, I'm commending everyone.
Sarah, it's 12:21. Okay. Yeah. I need to share this with you. It is 12:21 on 12/1/21. Now, I did that not only to tell you that, but I also did that because I want you to start fresh. And at 12:21, I'm snipping out your little rant. Go ahead.
Oh, gosh. Oh, boy. All right. Well, so Randy just shared what is called a hypercorrection. Okay. And that is a phenomenon when people are trying to sound proper and they go a little too far.
Yeah.
So the examples that he just shared, as I think he knows, are incorrect, but people don't understand why. So let me address that, please. That particular thing, it's so common, and I hear even in edited books, I see this mistake.
Yeah.
Okay, so Sarah, I can talk about myself two ways. I can be the subject of a sentence and say, I flew the jet plane, I kicked the can, whatever. Or I can be an object and I can talk about how the salesman approached me, right? And so when I'm an object, I become me. What else? You invited me onto your show. Thank you so much, because I'm the object. When we were children, our mothers would often interrupt us. We would say, Teddy and me went to the park. And our mothers, meaning well, would say, no, Teddy and I went to the park. Because of that correction, we often think we're supposed to always be Teddy and I, no matter what circumstances. Mm-hmm. That is not the case. There are times it should be Teddy and me. So we should say, the bicyclist cut off Teddy and me, because if I took Teddy out of the sentence, I would say the bicyclist cut me off, if that makes sense. So you always have to assess how you are acting in the sentence, if you are doing the action or the action is being done to you. So that and I thing. Oh,
what if you just left out the other person?
Just leave out the other person, and then you'll know
that's what I would do. So there's that. So in this case, it would be the car belongs to Teddy and me, because if I took Teddy out, the car belongs to me.
Correct.
My car, Teddy.
Exactly.
Yeah, but remember, I own it. You, no company car.
All right, so let's do another one here, and this one comes out with a pronoun. Again, Teddy and I went to the store. The car belongs to Teddy and me. Where I'm putting the pronoun, I'm putting the reference to me.
Yeah.
Second. Okay.
Oh, right.
But what if it's you and Teddy went to the store, or would it be Teddy and you went to the store when I'm talking to Sarah?
Right. So someone can correct me, but I believe that gets more into politeness rather than propriety. I think it's just sort of a social nicety to put ourselves second when we're talking about another person. So I don't think it's wrong. I think you can say the car belongs to me and my husband rather than my husband and me. But it's just sort of a deferential kindness to put the other person in front of yourself and say,
what about the you though? What if I'm saying the you, not referring to me, but I'm talking about you, like Teddy and you went to the store, or you and Teddy went to the store?
I think that's 50-50.
Could go either way.
I don't think that. Yeah, I don't think either one of those is right or wrong.
I'm all about flying if you're buying.
You got the money, I got the time. If you have a comment or question for Sara, please put it in the chat box. We're going to stump her eventually today, Teddy. And I don't know what the prize is, but I know, Sara, you want to give away a couple of books. So I don't know if you've got a master plan figured out here on how to do that.
Well, I was just,
it's a good book.
I just thought, why do it just reach out to me on LinkedIn and just message me. And the first couple people who say they saw this show and would like a book, I will even inscribe it if you like. Another thing I'll say, if you want me to send it to someone anonymously, if there's someone
like my
I
mama,
can do that. If there's someone on Twitter who's been driving you crazy with a particular mistake and you don't want to hurt their feelings.
Oh my, yeah. Well, there's you go into a whole litany of a grammatical mistake. Yeah, that's one of the little thing that kind of bugs me in a way. I gotta tell you, I'll use Facebook as an example, and I read through there, and when I see, and I know there's autocorrect, and I know people are using their phones, and they're not trying to be a literary genius here, but they sound stupid when you read and I'm like, wow. But I'm not the guy that's going to go in there and go, you look stupid because you don't know how to spell there or something like that. But so I let it slide. But I just can't help but think, your whole point you're trying to make evaporates.
Yeah.
It really does. And so let's take that point now. What are some, I guess, tips? And I know
I'm going to add one. I'm going to add one to it.
Okay.
Lisa asked, this fits what you're saying, is do you think proper grammar has declined, i.e. text messaging, Facebook messaging, all that space, because we're using two thumbs to communicate? How's that play with the whole question, Randy?
Yeah, I mean, I get it that it's a whole lot less formal when you're on social media, but when you're trying to communicate as a professional in the workplace or with companies and with coworkers, that kind of a thing, are there certain faux pas that you see a whole lot that you'd like to address? And before you do, it's almost half past the hour. I'll buy you a couple of moments to think. Teddy, do your thing, man.
Hey, thanks a lot for joining Randy and I on Lunch Conversations.
No, it's Randy and me. It's Randy and me.
I can cut that out, Randy. Nobody heard that except for the 12,000 people.
Thanks
listening.
for playing.
Hey, I still have a minute to pull this off. Thanks a lot for joining Randy and me on Lunch Conversations with Randy and Teddy. Our special guest today is really putting the pressure on me, is Sara Rosinsky. The conversation is about how to have a conversation, how to use words to show who you are in the best possible way. Sara, was that a little better?
Sure, that's fine.
Hey, we have sponsors that help us pull this off. So if you know somebody that wants to help Randy and me make this happen, then please introduce us to anyone that you think would be a great sponsor to help your show become even better. Randy, back to you, dude.
Well, yeah, the whole thought here is, look, we're trying to do the best we can on our job and in our personal life and try to project a positive professional image. So what, you have any kind of roundabout tips or things you see, kind of go, you know what, those maybe make the top 5 list of common mistakes? So just rattle off a few of these and it may jog people's thoughts. And if you've got questions or comments for Sara, put them in the chat box. Yeah.
The one that we just mentioned is probably at the top of my list. The join Randy and me versus, when people say join Randy and I, that is probably the most common.
Mhm.
I'll tell you what, the phrase to home in on, it is home, not hone. If you hone something, you sharpen it. So you can hone your skills or your butcher knife, but you home in on a topic or a question or a subject. So that's a real common one that I hear in the business world. I'm looking through the book right now.
Mhm.
A lot of mistakes Grammarly will help you with.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, just as an aside, I recently saw a list of tragic tattoos that people had gotten, and there's no spell check with the tattoo artist.
No.
And
yeah.
Did you weep?
you
Did you weep quietly?
Anyway.
You're getting a headache there, Sarah. That got to take the blood pressure medicine.
I can't imagine having, no regrets, RAGRE, like across your chest.
Yeah, that
the
would
irony,
be a tough one.
Yeah. So
Randy
anyway,
told his uncle Steve not to do that.
Yeah,
no.
I'll tell you another one too that I see often, not so much in writing as well, but the who and the whom.
Yeah,
talking about that.
I just turned to that.
What did you call it? When you're trying to compensate? Hypercorrection. Yes.
Yeah.
Now everything is whom, because it makes me sound more educated.
Yes.
Indubitably.
Yeah. Yes. When in doubt, don't say whom. You would be better off.
All right.
Using a who incorrectly than using a whom incorrectly.
Straighten us out on that. Yeah.
Well, so there are times when whom would be correct, but it sounds so flippin' snooty that you're almost better off making the mistake on purpose. I will quickly explain what whom is, but really don't touch that word unless you know what you're doing. Whom is, again, it's an object. So if you ask, to whom am I speaking, right? You're speaking, that's the object, whom. To whom it may concern. I am addressing this letter to some people. So that is correct. But you would never say whom ate the chocolate cake, because the person who ate the chocolate cake was the subject. So who ate the chocolate cake? So anyway, that's on page 32.
So
and the first,
a shameless plug. So if it's to somebody, I gave it to whom?
Yes.
Because I'm old, I remember this.
Always, yeah, that can also get a little complicated, but go ahead.
Remember Lily Tomlin, the operator?
Yes.
And she would say, to whom the party I am speaking, or something. Remember that years ago?
I do.
Eddie, you're old. You know what I'm talking about, don't you?
I remember that.
Sarah, you didn't need to acknowledge that, but
I'll acknowledge it. I love Lily Tomlin.
No, I meant age-wise, but
I'll acknowledge it.
Dean dropped a question. If you want to go for a question, and this is to be a big topic, and we can talk about it now or talk about it later.
All right.
But it's all around the whole concept. LinkedIn is a big proponent of us sharing our pronouns. What pronouns do we associate with ourselves?
Yes.
Okay. And I get this and I respect it. I don't participate in that, but that's just me. I'm a grumpy old man. Dean says he's got a coworker she would like workers like to use they as her pronoun. And he wants to know, so how do I use her pronouns when I'm engaging with her? Am I making sense?
Yes. And they is so, I've actually read about this. And if someone who identifies as they disagrees with what I'm saying, I want to apologize preemptively. But if what you're asking is like what verbs to use with the word they, which is traditionally a plural, but you're talking about a single person, should it be they is? From what I've read, and what I would do is say they are, this is my friend Candy. They are a professional, karate, black belt or whatever.
Rather than she is or he is.
Well, certainly rather than she, but if that person wants to be called they, but I would say they are as opposed to they is. I have a friend who thinks that, he commented on Facebook that somehow diminishes their individuality or something. But I think personally that the phrase they is sounds so jarring and awkward that I don't think that's what the they wants to hear, but I don't identify that way, so I can't. I'm not the authority on that. But
and again, except for I'm now questioning, jarring, and isn't unflubbify slightly jarring? But that's
well, I wanted it to be.
I get it. I get it. So
the his, her, and they. And I'm not even sure I can come up with the right question, so I may have to punt on this one. But instead of saying Teddy is the author of the book, forget it. I had a thought, but it died of loneliness. So let's move on.
I want to get another one because, man, our audience is eating this up.
All right.
So
all right, go for it.
Lisa says, so if you make an error in speaking, how do you go back and fix it without making yourself look bad?
Well, first of all, you're a human being and we all make mistakes. And I would encourage everyone within hearing distance to admit your mistakes.
Yeah.
If you're someone who does, I think you're going to get more credit for admitting your mistakes than anything else. So own it. You could say, you know what, 10 minutes ago, I completely misspoke when I said that thing about, they agreeing with a verb. I wish I had said this. Let me clarify. So yeah, it's a little trickier, isn't it? Because you have to call everyone's attention back to something invisible, but yeah.
All right. I got one for you then. Unless Teddy, you've got.
No, I'm going to hang on. Don's got one, but we're going to drop that one later on. Okay.
Here's one that I struggle with from time to time. And that's the quotation marks at the end. And I know if it's a quote, right, the period, then close quotes, but are there exceptions to that? Because I think there are.
There are. And this is one of those instances where explaining with my voice is not going to be as good as explaining in print. But above all, I want to say UK English and US English are different here.
Okay.
So everyone's got to understand that.
Grimy.
And then I will also admit that as a kid, when I was handwriting exams and things, I would sometimes put the period directly beneath the quotation marks.
Oh, that's being a rebel.
Well, no, I was, in the hopes of getting whatever. So I know it can be confusing.
Yeah.
You are correct. You want in the US, you almost always keep your punctuation inside of quotation marks, whether that's a comma or a period. Where things get a little unusual is when you have an exclamation point that is not related to the quote, or a question mark that is not related to the quote. So here are two examples where an exclamation point would be on the outside of the quotes and a question mark would be on the outside of the quotes. Did he just call me his honey? Question mark. Do you see what I'm saying? It would be quote question mark, because do you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm asking the question. So it has to encompass that quote. Same thing. He just called me his, hot stuff. Hot stuff is in quotes, exclamation point comes afterwards because I'm emphasizing that experience. I hope that makes sense. Almost always goes inside. Yeah.
It does. And I appreciate that, because you do run across that from time to time. And there's another question about semicolons and what's the purpose of those? And also between
great,
that and run-on sentences and the useless commas and all of that. But this gets into some of the punctuation sort of stuff. Yeah.
So first of all, I will say there is an entire book dedicated to the semicolon. I have not read it, but that is a way of just explaining that it has a history.
Are you serious? You're serious, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And there probably is more than one, but there's one that's been published within the past 5 or 10 years. A semicolon is best used to connect two sentences that are super related, that could stand on their own, but they're such close cousins that you want to kind of put a thin wall between them. Yeah. So, you know, I love cigarettes, semicolon. No, I don't know if this is a good one. I'm not going to live forever. You know, maybe that's.
Well, you're really peeling back the layers here, Sarah.
I don't know. Yeah. So yeah, it's just a nice way to connect two independent ideas.
Mm-hmm. And a semicolon is the dot with the comma below it.
Exactly.
As opposed to a colon, which is the two dots one on top of each other.
And I use a colon. I love using colons. I probably do it.
By the way, when I see the words hot stuff in people referring to me, there's usually an exclamation within the quotes as well.
Sure.
Okay, just let you know what I see from me. So,
he gets it all the time. He's a celebrity. He gets it all the time.
Cynthia, hey Cynthia, long time no see. Good to see you out here. To clarify words that appear to show exaggeration, what words should be avoided? Dang it.
What words should be avoided when you're trying to exaggerate? Is it, I would want to ask, do you mean like the word very? Are you trying to talk about amplifying something?
That's Cynthia, drop in and on chat and add to it. While Cynthia's clarifying that, I'll say to you that I realize as a speaker, one of the words that I should not use when I'm trying to exaggerate a point or really drive home a message. Because as a speaker, I remember speaking to a group, and I won't define the demographic, but I kept using the word freaking. You need to freaking do this. This is a freaking great idea. And I got beat up. I mean, my host or hostess came to me later on. She said, "Love your speech. I wish you hadn't used the word freaking so many freaking times."
Funny. And of course, freaking is kind of a euphemism, you know. So maybe you were being just a touch scandalous. Maybe that was the problem.
Maybe. Cynthia says, just trying to appear, you know, she doesn't want to appear to be exaggerating and with words. So,
well, if you're talking about like hyperbole, like
or very bright or very, very bright.
Well, yeah. So I wish I could talk to her. If you're talking about hyperbole, like saying, you know, 1,000,000 times yes, you know, that's like bigger than big. If that's what she's trying to avoid, you know, I say that's personal style. My husband, I could hear him in the other room. I am the queen of hyperbole. Like I will exaggerate.
Laughing.
Oh yeah, I talk about. I talk about the smallest issues being, you know, fatally dangerous, or, you know, just I go way far. That's my style, man. That's the way I am. In terms of the word very as sort of an amplifier, there are those who will tell you never to use that word because it's kind of empty and doesn't really add much. And I would just say, as with everything, if you do use the word very, ask yourself if it's really adding. Yeah. If it's not, get rid of it.
Dan, on a resume, said you're very smart.
Oh.
Well, on a resume, certainly words like very, highly, extremely, exceedingly, I've seen that.
Yeah.
Those are all claims. I could just, like words. Teddy can say he's very smart. All right. Well, he may be, but how do you define very? It's not quantifiable. Now, if on his resume, he could put an accomplishment that says he's been a lifelong Mensa member or
right.
that kind of thing. From a resume standpoint, the words very, highly, extremely, they're wasted words when you have nothing better to say.
Right.
You wouldn't put it on there if you stunk at it, you know?
And I think on a resume, it would be more memorable and informative if you could be more specific and say, my my strength is identifying the aspect of a problem that everyone seems to be overlooking. You know, I can find the underlying, however that smartness manifests. If you can describe it, that's a lot more interesting than just saying very smart, which any 4-year-old would love to tell you, right? I'm very smart.
Just comparing me to a 4-year-old now, Randy.
No, I'm just saying.
Hey, we have about 15 minutes left in the show. We like to save the last 5 minutes or so, or 7 minutes, for you to kind of take a couple minutes to summarize and what are some key takeaways you'd like us to have. So just kind of keep that in mind. But we still have another 7 or 8 minutes. And one of the things that you,
hey, Randy, I also want to play with Don's question. So when you can,
and we need to give away the books. So we've taken care of that, but we'll do that again at the end as well. We'll talk about that. So Don's question.
Before you go deeper into the ideas that we talked about, let's throw out Don's question, because I like his question. I really want Sarah to take this one. Sarah, if you could be a ghostwriter or a speechwriter for a president of the United States, living or dead, who would it be?
Wouldn't touch it. Wouldn't touch it. You couldn't pay me enough money. I'm so sorry.
Not even the 10-foot pole?
No,
not at least only, you didn't say whom would you do?
Yeah,
right?
I can't. No, politics make me a little queasy as it is. I can't imagine the pressure. The whole, more power to ghostwriters, where every single word is going to be analyzed, 6 ways from Sunday. Very detailed. I would love someone like Lincoln to do some writing for me, maybe, but not the other way around.
How about a celebrity? Is there a celebrity that you would love to be their ghostwriter?
No, I just, if someone's a great writer, I don't want to write for them. I want them, I just want to read their writing. So, and I can't really think of celebrities whose words make me swoon, but there are some writers that, produce pure candy.
Yeah.
Can be, yeah. You mentioned words are fun. They have a story and a sound. They paint pictures inside. And that's another one, the difference between picture and picture. I hear that a lot, especially in this part of the country.
Right.
It paints a picture. So we want to keep an eye. The picture is the photo.
Different word.
Picture is what Teddy carries around his iced tea with.
No, it's IPA, man.
Okay. True. Where I'm going with this, because it kind of jogged my mind. We talked politicians and such, and one of the things we had, and she's from Colorado, Sara. You tell a story that Sarah, I'm sure you've run into. Sarah Elkins. She's out in Colorado. She wrote a book about your stories don't define you, but you define your life, whatever. But I forget the title. But the point was,
your stories don't define you. How you tell them does.
Yeah. And so she was real big with creating what I'll call the visual impact in telling a story. And politicians do a great job of that. And in helping convey their empathy for folks and such. Let me tell you a story about the poor person that I met last week who didn't have this or that, and how they were, that whole thing, but they weave that story to generate emotion. And we make decisions based on emotion. We validate them based on logic. And so words can paint that picture. Do you have any tips for generating that emotion or the whole storytelling? Are there certain things that you kind of fall back on when you say, hey, I got to write something that's really going to tug at the heartstrings here? Maybe, I don't know.
I have to think about that. I mean, certainly different words have different moods and paint different pictures. Some of that has to do with their provenance. If they came from France or, from French, or if they came from, Germanic, there are reasons for that. Okay. But I guess I would just invite everyone to pay attention to different words. I actually have probably 10 or 12 different lists of words. I just collect them. Some of them I just think they're really evocative or underused, or they sound nice. So even though the thesaurus will tell you that there might be, 10 or 12 different synonyms, they're not exactly the same. So, you could talk about a puppy or a dog or a hound or a cur or a, flea-bitten, four-legged, canine, mongrel, exactly. So, and that's so delightful, isn't it? Again, it is like a work of art. You're putting together a mosaic of different materials. So I guess I would just invite everyone to enjoy those raw materials as much as I do,
and Sarah, one of the things I discovered for me is and by the way, I'm a pathetic writer, and I know that. And so I have people who help me with the most important stuff. But one of the things I discovered for me is that when I write a sentence that I really want you to grasp, before I hit the period or move on to the next sentence, I read it out loud. I don't just read it, I read it out loud, because it's when I hear those words bounce around in my gray matter that it tells me like, okay, I did it right. Now I got Grammarly helping me. So I'm trying to, do the grammar correctly, even though I don't always trust Grammarly.
No, you shouldn't.
But it's the verbalize. Because I think for me, that, as I just said, when I say it out loud, I feel my words better than just visualizing them.
Yeah, I think that works. All right, we've got a few minutes left, just a few. We're going to do a lightning. We're going to do Stump Rosinsky right now. Teddy, are you ready? Yeah, we're going to throw.
Did you know that was coming?
We're going to make it up as we go, because I don't even know what I'm going to say next. But let's do if and whether. What's the difference?
Oh, golly gee willikers.
Wait, is this another rant? Should I get full screen for Sarah's rant?
I mean, I have my own little technique for understanding, but if there's one, buy the book.
Well, I don't actually address the whether and if question in there. I use them in different ways. The whether thing.
I'll jump in.
Okay.
So it's whether, or if you can put or not, then use whether. And if you can put then use that. So
use
if it rains, then I will bring my if I think it will rain, then I will bring my umbrella. If then, I have to decide whether to bring an umbrella. I have to decide whether or not to bring an umbrella.
Okay.
So when you write your sequel, you're going to put that one in there. If and whether, you're going to put that. Now you mentioned
I learned from Randy Wooden.
What about every day versus every day?
That's probably the most common. That is probably the most common problem I see.
Okay.
Every day as one word is an adjective. So you would talk about your everyday dishes or your everyday shoes or your everyday shampoo. It is modifying a noun. When you say that your jewelry store is open every day until 9 p.m., that's 2 words. I invite people to put the word single in between every and day. Every single day. My store is open every single day until 9 p.m. You want to have the 2 words then.
That makes sense. You got one, Teddy?
Well, I don't have everyday clothes, Randy. You know me. I'm
How about this one? The word maybe, meaning let's say perhaps, and also may be.
Right, those are 2 different. I think that is in the book, and I think the person who posed that question knows the difference. But
so wait a minute. So do you know who Angela is?
I just saw the question pop up, and it was spelled correctly, so I think that they know. So maybe I ate the tiramisu, and maybe I didn't. That's one word, and when it's 2 words, it's more like might be. I may be married. I may be single. I might be married or I might be single. So, yeah. I'm kind of looking to the book to see if there's.
Let's go to the videotape. All right, let's see what you have. Hey, we've got just about time for you to give us a wrap on this thing. What are some takeaways? Nobody's perfect, and we didn't get into who's and let's and it's and it. Let's do it's and it's real. That's a big one. It's and
sure.
it. I see that all the time.
Yes.
I see it every day.
Right. That poor little apostrophe is having its life threatened. It's
that bad.
Would have its life. It's so small and it gets abused so much. It gets put where it doesn't belong and it gets just left out where it needs to be. If you have it's with an apostrophe, you're saying either it is or it has. It is a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day would have an apostrophe. But if you're talking about a possessive pronoun like his or hers, it's his, hers, it's. It's his birthday, it's her birthday. Oh, I shouldn't have started that sentence with it. It makes it confusing. Anyway, it's a possessive pronoun. So the dog hurt its tail. Although we tend to give dogs genders, the dog hurt his tail. But anyway, the truck lost its back tire. That's a possessive pronoun. No apostrophe.
Hey, if people want to get in the know, they can get the book, but they can also follow you on LinkedIn. And because I know every single day you're cranking out some good stuff.
I do every day. Yeah.
Yep. So
and please message me, and I'll send books to the first couple people who say that they heard this show. And
got a quick a few pointers to leave behind here for folks.
Got to wrap up. Yep.
Yeah, we just a moment or two. Yeah.
I would just say that words really matter, and words can be really enjoyable, and we can all write better. And the more you know about English, the more you can enjoy using it. So I invite everybody to not hate writing, but to learn how to love it, because it's very powerful.
And they can get more information by reaching out to you through LinkedIn. I imagine you probably also have a website too. All right.
I do. ShinyRedCopy.com. ShinyRedCopy.com.
How do you spell shiny for people that may not know? Is there an E in it?
It's a little something like that.
It doesn't have an E. There you go. But hey, Sara Rosinsky, thank you for joining us. And I'm really excited that you're able to come here and share some things that perhaps we learned back in school and then quickly forgot, for like a lot of folks. Hey, Teddy, got a quick story?
I do, man. I do. So
what you got? And I'll do a quick story after that, I guess, and then you'll close us out.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, peel back a layer and tell you a true story about. I've written 2 books that are on Amazon.com, and the first one I wrote, I hired an editor. I'd never hired an editor before. I wrote the dude a check and gave him the book. He edited it, sent it back to me, and said, "Here you go, dude, publish it." I've never done a book before. I had no idea what to expect. So I published the book. I made a few changes. I published a book. About 6 months later, I get a message from a lady who goes, "Teddy, oh my God, I read your book. I loved your book. It was absolutely fantastic. I got lots of value from it. I can only imagine the only thing that would have made it better is if you would have hired an editor." So fast forward, she and I talked, had a great conversation. She said, "The next book you write, I want to edit it for you." I said, "Well, I will get in touch with you when I write my second book." I wrote my second book, or I got nearly done writing it. I contacted this lady and I said, "Hey, my book is ready for the editor, I think." And she said, "Well, start sending it to me chapter by chapter." I sent it, and I said, "Well, wait a minute, I want to know what this is going to cost." She goes, "No, I'm not charging you. I feel like I want to help you because I was so rough on you the first time." This editor really took me through the grinder, beat me up, taught me things I'd never imagined before. That was the value of hiring an editor, not just to hand somebody my book and say, "Fix it," but to teach me how to use the English language a little better than I've freaking done before. So that's my story, Randy.
Hey, Teddy, I'll get real quick. People judge you by words that you speak. I think that was an old commercial. Did you write that, Sara? Did you write that?
No, I didn't. Nope.
No. People judge you by the words you use. Point being, whether it's the written word, the spoken word, it's your body language, tone of voice, all of that matters. You may not think it does, but the impression that you create, whether it's good or bad, can affect your job search and can affect your performance on the job and how you're perceived by your peers. I'll leave it at that. Teddy, close us out. And who's our guest next week?
Sarah, Randy and I both, I'm sure, appreciate you showing up today.
Thank you.
So next week is the 8th of December, and I messed it up, Randy.
Maury Schwartz is the guest.
That's right.
How to get your foot in the door and what to do next.
Yeah.
So you just get your foot in the door and plow forward, and it's going to help job hunters who face that. I tell you what, Sarah, that's the biggest frustration, is getting your foot in the door with a company, is getting the interview, getting the opportunity to tell your story and to use good grammar and punctuation. So
yes,
Maury Schwartz joins us next week. Teddy?
Yep. So Schwartz, SCHWARTZ, first name MAURI. Thank you everyone for joining us today. And again, Sarah, absolutely blast, absolutely freaking fantastic, very best ever this week. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see everybody next week. Randy, take care, buddy.
All right. Have a good one. See you now.